Hello everybody, it's Khaled here. This is a new series on the C# scripting with CryEngine. Today we'll be looking at the basic C# scripting within CryEngine. Without further delay, let's get this started. Alright, so I've created a new project to start it off that gives me a blank screen. Let's create ourselves a level. We'll call this level. Alright, that's better. Now we have something to look at, so let's just drop in an empty entity into the level. And let's click on the property. Currently, right now, we just can't see our entity because there's no mesh applied to it, so let's add a mesh to our entity. There we go, and just bring that up. This entity is the entity that we'll be using to apply our scripts to, so let's do that right now. Let's create a folder called scripts, open that up, and let's create ourselves a new C# script. I will call this my scripts. You guys are free to call it whatever you guys want. Alright, so once it's done compiling, we're just going to open that up. And go to our script. Alright, so here's our C# script. We have a few boilerplates from CryEngine. First thing you see is that my scripts, which is the script that I've created, the blank script, derives from entity components. So any script that we create that is a component that can be attached to an entity will derive from entity component. It contains a few methods that will help us with our development, such as onGamePlayStart and onUpdate. We'll be looking at these shortly. Let's just quickly look at the attribute right up here. So if you see, this is also entity component attribute, which is used for the CryEngine system. This is used to reference our script as an entity. This GUID is the reference number or reference ID for our script. So if you manipulate the GUID, then that's going to break the reference and that's going to ruin our code. So for the time being, let's just keep that be, and we'll look at that later on in the tutorial series. Alright, so let's go down here on the first method, onGamePlayStart. This should happen on the first frame once we click the play button, so let's just log that to see if that works. So log.info starting game. Alright, so log.info is similar to debug.log. If you guys used Unity before, or console.writeLine, it just logs some a string format to the console. Alright, so let's head back to our game and let's go to console, and let's not forget to apply our script or else it would not work. And let's clear that and just hit the play button. Alright, so it seems to work. It's just right there, mono starting game. So this method happens on the first frame once we hit the play button, so that's good. Alright, so now let's look at onUpdate here. So onUpdate should happen when you first click the play button. Every tick, so every frame, it should be invoked, it should be called. So let's just log that in as well. I'm gonna say rapid fire and check if that works. So it should print out a lot of rapid fires because it's going to happen every frame once we hit that play button, of course. So let's go back to our game and just hit play. Alright, so that seems to work. That's good. Alright, so let's go back to our code. So the cool thing about onUpdate is it contains a float variable called frametime. Frametime is the difference between this in the previous frame. This is very important if, let's say, you're doing movement or translation and you want it to be frame independent. So if you have a slow PC, you don't want the frames per second to affect the speed of the translation or the movement. Or if you have a fast PC, you don't want that, or you might want that, it depends on your development, to affect the speed of the movement. So if you don't want it to affect the speed of the movement, you can just multiply frame time and it's going to make it frame independent on that movement. All right, so one other thing is that on update and on gameplay start is provided to us on entity component. So if we take a little peek in entity component, all right, so it looks like we get a lot of tools within entity component. So I'm gonna find on update, so just right there. So on update and on initialize, all these method is provided to us by the entity component. We're gonna look at the on editor updates, on initialize, on transform change, on where is it? On collision, on hide, on unhide, and just about every other method that's provided to us by entity component on the next tutorial. But right now I just want to get the basics down so you guys understand what these two methods are once we create the new C# script. Alright, so that is everything for this tutorial. I hope you guys like it, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial shortly. Bye.